Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. I am Michael, also known as the Unmatchable One, and today we are here to discuss how WWE fumbled their next big star. And before we get into that, I really wanted to address something briefly, so let's just get into that real quick. It's been a minute since I've sat down and made some wrestling content for you guys, like maybe since like January, but that was a reaction, right? But it's been a minute, and I quickly wanted to address that. I've been really busy lately, like busier than I ever expected, and that's why this has been my least consistent year yet, so I do apologize for the lack of content. As you can see, I've been doing a lot more with my friends lately on this channel because, well, I got to hang out. The brief times I do get some time to myself, I want to hang out with my friends, and we somehow make content there. I just wanted to say the channel trajectory is not changing. We are still a wrestling channel, and I apologize for the lack of content lately in general, especially when it comes to wrestling. So, in terms of this next month, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty busy this month. It's not gonna be too consistent, but starting July, you can expect me to be back on the normal track of posting very frequently. Again, I really apologize for this, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And one more note of good news if you didn't see on my community posts. Part 2 to the highly demanded non-WWE fan reacts to WWE themes is going to be releasing this month, if all goes to plan. So yeah, I'm excited to announce that, and for more updates on this and just to keep more up with my channel, be sure to follow me on my Instagram, link will be in the description. Today, we are here to discuss something different. We're here to discuss who WWE fumbled that could have been their next biggest star. And obviously, that list is very long. It could be Dolph Ziggler. It could be Shinsuke Nakamura. It could be Wade Barrett. The list genuinely goes on. But who I'm here to talk about today had some real potential, amazing moments, and a horrible ending to their WWE career. The man I'm going to talk about today is Keith Lee. Now, if you're new to wrestling or just started watching it when he was in AEW or late in his WWE career, you might be wondering, how did Keith Lee have potential to be WWE's next big star? That's what I'm here to explain today. I'm here to take you through the journey. So let's get into it. So Keith Lee debuted in NXT in 2018. Didn't do anything significant that year, if I'm being honest. Just put on a few matches. No big deal. And I think he debuted like late that year. So yeah, Keith Lee didn't do much in 2018. But 2019, which was his following year, and I believe first full year with the company, was his breakout year, in my personal opinion. Keith Lee would put on banger matches with Dominik Dijakovic. They had such good chemistry, and it truly showcased how a big guy like Keith Lee could actually move so fast, be a high flyer at times, and have that powerhouse element. Showed you that Keith Lee in the ring had it all. He also cut amazing promos that showed you his charisma, showed you that he really has that skill he couldn't showcase in the first year in WWE. And Keith Lee, late that year, would win the North American Championship to truly solidify that he was one of the next big stars in WWE. However, before he could win the North American title, he had probably his first star-making moment. So in 2019, Survivor Series, they decided to do NXT versus Raw versus SmackDown, something they'd never done before, turning their traditional 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown match to a 5-on-5-on-5 where they included NXT. And when it was down to the final three, one from each team, it was Seth Rollins from SmackDown, Roman Reigns when he was on Raw. I got that completely mixed up. What am I thinking? Seth Rollins from Raw, Roman Reigns from SmackDown, and from NXT, it was Keith Lee. Now, throughout the whole match, NXT was getting a lot of cheering because they put their biggest stars on that team. And at that time, Roman Reigns was still the big dog. Everyone hated him. Seth Rollins was on the fall off of being a babyface after losing to The Fiend. Not many liked him either. Keith Lee had the crowd going crazy for him. And this is a Survivor Series. This is a pay-per-view, one of the big four at that time. Keith Lee would end up eliminating Seth Rollins, a guy fresh off 2 world title reigns. That is huge. However, what happened next was even bigger. Keith Lee, after almost winning the match, sold the life out of a spear to give Roman Reigns the W. However, Keith Lee would get up, and Roman Reigns would acknowledge Keith Lee's talent with a fist bump. That was a star-making moment, considering Roman Reigns was considered by most people the face of SmackDown and even WWE at that time. Another star-making moment followed up pretty quickly. In the 2020 Royal Rumble, probably my favorite Royal Rumble match of all time for the men's side, because so many stories were told. Drew McIntyre winning, Brock dominating, and Edge's return, just cinema. Absolute cinema. When Brock Lesnar was in the middle of his domination and had no one else in the ring, Keith Lee's music hit and he came up to him and had a face-to-face with Lesnar. This was not only just a huge moment because people thought, oh, big guy versus Brock Lesnar. People knew what Keith Lee was doing in NXT, and they knew he was about to bring it to Brock Lesnar as one of the bigger guys coming up. And Brock Lesnar even made it look as if Keith Lee was a star or had something, and Keith Lee showed something against Brock Lesnar in that moment. He may have been eliminated quickly alongside Braun Strowman, but he was posed for a little bit as a threat to Brock Lesnar within that 2 minutes of fame. That moment alone showed you Keith Lee had something, and he was ready to bring it to the main roster whenever he got called up. So fast forward to spring, and Keith Lee's still the North American champion, having feuds with people like Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae, alongside his wife Mia Yim, still in the company. And of course Adam Cole, someone who left WWE because he didn't trust that they were going to not change him when he got to the main roster. And boy, is that a big factor in this story. Left for AEW, where Keith Lee is also now too. But Adam Cole was the face of NXT at this time, coming off of one of the longest reigning NXT title reigns, I believe, and considered widely one of the best. Adam Cole wanted Keith Lee's North American Championship as well. Keith Lee didn't mind taking NXT Championship from Adam Cole. So what do you think happened? William Regal, the general manager at that time, made it official. Great American Bash. Adam Cole, Keith Lee, not undisputed title match. What am I thinking? Adam Cole, Keith Lee, NXT Championship and NXT North American Championship unification match. And Adam Cole was the top star at this time, the face of NXT. And to maybe the surprise of many, or maybe not because he was really big coming up, Keith Lee beat Adam Cole in an amazing match. And he is the first person to this date to hold the NXT North American title and NXT title at the same time, if I'm correct. And that's history making. That is groundbreaking for NXT. That's groundbreaking for anyone. This solidified him as a threat, a big star. As, okay, this guy's doing this in NXT, making history in NXT. He's the next big guy going to the main roster. But anyways, William Regal would make him relinquish the NXT North American title for whatever reason. But Keith Lee was chill with it. He wanted to be just the main champ. And in his first feud, I don't really want to talk about this. Karrion Kross was being posed as a dominant threat in NXT, and he just debuted 2 months ago or a month ago, and he was coming for Keith Lee's NXT title reign. Realistically, Keith Lee being one of the biggest NXT champions in history and probably one of the longest reigns in one of the most historic fashions, he should hold on to the title for quite a while, right? Nope, he lost it against Karrion Kross the second he defended it. I wasn't happy with that. That was probably the biggest fumble NXT made with Keith Lee. But when I started watching SummerSlam 2020, it all made sense when I saw the advertisement of Keith Lee finally getting that main roster call-up. As someone who was a fan of his work in NXT and would only watch NXT clips of him, I was really excited. I was hyped. I knew what he had, and I knew what he could bring. However, it seems as if WWE didn't want him bringing that star power and that aura he had in NXT to the main roster. Allow me to explain. The first time you see Keith Lee, although yes, they made a wise move and put him straight in the main picture with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, they changed his theme song. The theme song, which, might I add, got me to become a Keith Lee fan. Because I saw that theme song when I was just roaming YouTube, and I said, that's a really good theme song. Let me go check out this guy. And I saw how good he was. They changed the theme to some generic rock. Okay, let's go. I can finally hear this Vader on Raw. Let's see it. What the? I was mad about that. And Vince McMahon prohibited him, or at least was very against him, keeping his top off and just wearing tights like he did in NXT. Nope, he had to wear those overall connectors. I don't know why.
You a body shamer.
And I might be wrong about this at this stage, but his flying ability or more high flying aerial stuff he did in NXT seemed a little limited. However, he had a good match and good win against Randy Orton at Payback. No problems. As a Braun Strowman fan, I was really disappointed with his feud with Keith Lee. That wasn't very good. It was a bit of a fluctuating journey at the start, but I'm like, hey, not too much has changed. Still in the main title picture, fighting the bigger guys. I'm fine with it. Fast forward 2021, and Keith Lee was supposed to win the United States title at Elimination Chamber. However, he unfortunately suffered from some injury or some problem, and therefore his health came first, as it should, and he had to back out of the match. He had to not take that spot, and it was given to Matt Riddle. Unfortunate, because that was the biggest thing that they were going to really do to push Keith Lee, and hearing it, I was all for it. I definitely think that was a wise move of them to put the US title on him, but things happen. But when he returned in July, he got straight back into the main title picture again, right? He faced Bobby Lashley when he returned, and he showed dominance. It was a pretty good match. It was all right. However, he lost the match, and it was his first match back in months, but that was kind of predictable. Bobby was the champion. So you think, okay, maybe they're going to do some sort of feud, some sort of program. You know, Keith just came back.
Nope.
For the months following that, I genuinely can't remember what Keith Lee was doing. And I don't think it was anything relevant, considering I can't remember as a huge Keith Lee fan. And this was a serious time for Keith Lee's career in WWE, because his momentum was drained quickly after his return. So they had a choice. They could either refreshen him, maybe give him all the stuff that they took away from him back, or even just keep him the way he is, but put him on SmackDown with the upcoming draft in October to feel refreshing. Limitless character, even if you don't bring back all that NXT stuff, which they should have. Put him on SmackDown. It feels refreshing. New brand, new opponents, new chances, new opportunity. Perfect. That's how you refresh Keith Lee. Instead, they make the man a Bearcat. What? Like, apparently it was a tribute to something, but holy no. That, oh my gosh, I can't bear it to this day. How? How? And basically everything about Keith Lee was stripped from him. How he was that big guy who could actually really wrestle well, do those aerial moves, do stuff that no one his size should be able to do. They made him look like he sucked in the ring, because they basically said, you can't fly over the top rope, you can't do any of your traditional moves. The one thing we're going to do that's good is give you back your old finisher from NXT. But other than that, you're going to be that basic big guy who can't wrestle. Throw people around, slam him, win. Squash matches. Why? A guy with charisma. A guy with so much wrestling ability. You take away his chance on the mic. You change his character to be some generic monster, and you take away his wrestling ability. You even change his name and take away the gimmick he's worked with for years. A gimmick and a name that Dusty Rhodes gave him. And then they released him in October, like a month or two after that gimmick was presented. A guy who had a star-making moment with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins at Survivor Series. A guy who went face-to-face with Brock Lesnar and showed he had something. A guy that in NXT held both the championships up at the same time. Something that I don't think anyone else in that promotion has done. They had everything in front of them. He had the star power, the aura, the accomplishments in NXT, those moments. All you had to do was bring that to the main roster. But they changed everything about him, and they released him. To this day, I cannot believe how delusional Vince was with Keith Lee. That has to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest fumble in history. With so many moments that I just discussed that could have made him the next big star, they changed him. That's all that it was. They changed him and they released him. And in AEW, after the Swerve in Our Glory thing, he hasn't been doing anything super crazy or anything relevant. And his contract expires this year. So maybe we see Keith Lee make a return and see that NXT Keith Lee in WWE. But until then, his career, man, only because of WWE management and Vince McMahon at that time. Tragic ending to what could have been amazing. But anyways, that is it for this video. Let me know who you think could have been one of the next big stars in WWE, but WWE fumbled. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow my Instagram down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all. And yeah, more content coming soon. I'm out.